Well, this is my, about 12-year-old, 13-year-old cheapy Craftsman table saw. The motor just locked up. I have no idea why it locked up, and it popped the reset button out. So I thought maybe some sawdust or a piece of wood had gotten wedged up in the motor somehow. So I turned it off, unplugged it, and tipped it over. And I don't know, I can turn the blade by hand, but it's really rough. Like, I don't know, bearing's bad or something. And I can't afford to buy a new one. And I have had this thing for, a dozen or more years, so I've gotten my money's worth out of it. It was a cheap one when I bought it. So I got nothing to lose by taking it apart, taking the motor out, and seeing if there's a reason that I can see for the motor to lock up. So I'm going to do that and show you my progress. Well, I got the wheels off and I got the dust funnel off. Now I got to figure out how to get that motor off. I think there's some bolts up under there, but I got to follow that wire there over to the box it's going in right here, and see if I can disconnect those wires before I can get the motor out. Okay, I'm just recording this, so if I can't remember where these wires go, I'll have a video recording of it. Black wires on top. White wire was on the bottom, and there's a ground wire right there. That's 3 wires that go to this motor, and then 4 bolts, and I'll have this motor off in a second. Okay, I got it out and still bound up. I guess I'm gonna have to pull the casing off of this motor here. Those are Allen head screws. Maybe this is how it comes off. I don't know, but I'm going to take my air hose and blow this off real good so I can see what I'm doing. I want to get it apart. I'll show you. Well, I've got the brushes out, and the brushes look just fine. There's nothing wrong with them. These are the little caps that hold the brushes in, like that. So I'm going to dig a little deeper. Nothing wrong with the brushes. I was kind of hoping it would be something simple like a worn brush. Now I'm suspecting that this is one of 2 things. Bearings that have gone bad, or I'm hoping something fell down in there like a chunk of wood and it's just binding up. That would sure be nice, because I hate being without a table saw. Anyway, I'm going to take the casing off. There's 4 screws. I think that's how it's going to come off. I'm just going to loosen these 4 screws up and see if that's how it comes off. I just want to do a short clip so I remember where this bracket goes. The bracket goes on the side that the cord is on, with the little L portion of it to the right, facing to the right when the cord is facing me. Well, I suspected this, and I was hoping it wasn't it. This bearing is froze up. It'll turn this way, but it won't turn the way it's supposed to turn when it's in the motor. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to show you something in this casing. This casing is plastic. Hold on. Excuse my wiggling, but I gotta... Can you see where the bearing rides in the very end of that casing? See, it's all melted. All that black plastic is melted. And the reason is this thing was turning with the bearing. The whole bearing was turning where it's supposed to be seated. The outside here is supposed to not turn, and the inside is supposed to turn on the bearings. So here's my dilemma. How the heck does that come off? Anybody know? Is it a pressed fit bearing? No pins, no clips. Maybe I'll just try to pry it off with a screwdriver. But if I put this up, if you see this video with nothing after this, then I wasn't successful. And I'm asking for suggestions from anybody who knows maybe more about electrical stuff than I do. If you can tell me how that bearing comes off so I don't break the rest of this. If I can get that bearing off, there's a place over in Shreveport. Ow. Place over in Shreveport sells bearings. Might be able to find a replacement. Alright, thanks for watching. Well, anybody who knows me knows I couldn't sit around and wait for help. So I did get it off, but I had to take my Dremel and take it off a piece at a time. And it is just a pressed on bearing. There's no clip or anything holding it on. And it took a whole bunch of persuading to get it off. And boy, was it messed up. I only had about half the ball bearings left in it that it was supposed to have. And these are the little keepers that hold the bearings in place while you're assembling the bearing. And this is actually what bound it up. The keeper broke and locked everything up, and it started just spinning the whole bearing in the end of this housing, which melted the plastic, but it's still usable, huh? And the good news is there's a bearing on the other side that's identical to it, same number and everything. So when I get it replaced, I'm just going to bring this motor and they'll measure the outside of the bearing and the inside where it presses down on this, and I'm sure I'll be able to replace this. So who knows, I might get a few more years out of this. I'm going to go ahead and put this up just because it might be a week or so before I can get the bearing. They may have to order it. And if they can't get it, then it doesn't exist. That's bearing service over in Shreveport. If anybody lives around here, if you ever want a bearing, if they ain't got it, nobody's got it. Thanks for watching. Well, after some encouragement from my friends in the comment section, I decided to go out and get the model number off that table saw and get on Sears website, and sure enough, that's the part I need. They do not show the bearing here. Actually, they do show a bearing, but that's the other end for this end of the armature. The bearing I need goes on this end of the armature. And I went out and measured with calipers, and the two bearings are different sizes. And nowhere here do they offer that bearing. They do offer the bushing that goes inside this housing, which is what melted. So I pulled that bushing out. It's just a plastic Teflon kind of bushing. And I brought the piece of the bearing in. And let's see if... Yeah, that's not going to happen. How about this? 6'2". Hold on, let's see if I can do a little bit better than that. No, it ain't gonna work. 6200Z. And there we go. One bearing is $9. Probably going to be about $15 shipped. I'm fixing to order it. So I ordered the bushing from Sears. And that was $11 shipped. And I'm fixing to order this, and it's probably going to be about 15 or 16 bucks shipped. So I'm going to have to add in front of people. Let's see, $26, $27. So for less than $30, I'm probably going to get another 5 or 6 years out of that saw. Good deal. And I appreciate everybody commenting, because I had just about given up. I was a little disgusted that it was so daggone cheap in there. But I appreciate all the advice, so I just wanted to update that video. And my next video will be when I get the parts, I'll put it all back together and show myself cutting with it. Thanks. Well, I got my bearings in the mail today. I wasn't able to get this other bearing, but I did pop the cap off of this. It goes over that and holds the grease in, and I took a really fine pick, and I pop the cap off, and I'm going to repack this with some grease. Sorry. This is there's nothing wrong with this bearing. There's no play, and it still has some grease in it. I'm just going to repack it, put it back together, put the seal back on. Somebody else suggested that I sand this off or polish the oxidation off of it, the armature, and I did that. And another person suggested that an easy way to get this bearing to slide down over here is to put this in the freezer for a couple hours and let it contract and heat this up a little bit, and then it should slide back on. But there's a shoulder down here, so I don't really run the risk of getting it on too far. I got to put it right down to that shoulder. And then I've got the sleeve that the bearing fits into, and then goes into the bottom of that there. And what I'm going to do is take a brush with some epoxy. I'm going to, where that bearing sleeve fits down in there, I'm going to put a coating of epoxy in there, and then mash this down in there, and then slide it all down in there, so it won't move around. So that's what I'm going to do next. Wrong end. Pack this up with some grease, put that seal back on, and then go put this in the freezer and cool it down. And I ought to have this together here in just a couple more hours, about 3 hours. I'm going to let this sit in the freezer for, oh, I don't know, hour and a half or so. See you in a bit. Alright, I'm going to pack this with some grease. I won't show you the whole thing, I'll just give you an idea how it's done. Take a little bit of grease on your thumb, and you wipe it in there, and as you wipe it off your thumb, you're packing it down into the bearings. It's a lot easier to do this when both sides of the bearing are open and there's no seal on either side, but this is going to work just fine. Alright, you get the idea. I'm going to wipe my thumb off and shut you off and finish packing this. Okay, it's packed. I got the seal back in there, and I actually got some of the grease to come out. Let me see if I can zoom this really close here. Underneath the bearing, I actually got some of the grease to come around the seal. There we go. Yeah. So, man, this thing's going to be good for another 12 years. All right, we got a nice frosty armature. Really, it's got ice on it. So let's see if that's going to help me get this down on there. I am going to tap on it. Now I'm going to take a socket, put it over that. Am I down on the shoulder yet? You know what? I'm just about on the shoulder. I'm just going to give it a few sharp raps. Take my flashlight, make sure this thing's seated. Oh yeah. Okay. While you were gone, I went ahead and greased the inside of this. That's where that fits in. Here's the bearing cup. I don't really know what it's called. I forget. Now, that's how it goes over the bearing like that. And then this all fits down inside that. But first, I'm going to put my epoxy down here. And what I've got is a tube of liquid metal that I have left over from the coffee can rocket stove that I made, and I'm just going to put that down in there, mash the armature in there, and put this back together, and I'll show you that when I'm done. Alright, I got a couple of screws to tighten up here. Had to put that bracket back on there. I've already put one brush in. I'm going to put the other one in just a second. There's a little tricky to get back in there. Let's hope I don't lose this. It's spring loaded. Make sure you can see this. That's what a brush looks like, and it rides up against the armature. It's just carbon. And it's got a spring in it, and as they wear, the spring pushes them in deeper and deeper, and boy, this is hard to get this thing in there and hold it and get that in there. Let's see if it'll just happen to pop in. If it takes too long, I'll shut the camera off. Come on, get in there. All right. All right, there we go. That sound you hear is the grease. It'll wear in a little bit. All right. I'm going to blow the sawdust out of the bottom of my saw and put this back together, and we'll cut something. You know what? While I got it turned upside down and exposed, I'm going to put a little bit of light oil on these rods that adjust the angle and the height. I'll be right back. Okay, it's on. Now I need to put that little electrical box on. And that goes, let's see, right here, and then I'll put my legs back on, turn it over, crank it up, and if nothing's, if it works all right, I'll show you me cutting something on it. Be right back. Alrighty. I just want to thank all the people that encouraged me to go ahead and try to fix it. I don't know what I was thinking. I was going to throw it away. And I've been thinking the last few days why. Typically, if something of mine breaks, the first thing I do is tear into it and see what's wrong. But I'll tell you what, not having a job sure puts a ding in your self-confidence and your self-esteem. And I didn't think I could fix it. And I appreciate all the encouragement from the people who viewed and commented on the last video. Anyway, this will probably last me another 10 or 12 years. I'm glad I didn't have to buy another one. Thanks for watching.